Hello and welcome back to another episode. This is an exciting one. This is the first part in our Q&A series, which if you chimed into our Instagram stories and filled in the questionnaire, then thank you so much because we received an overwhelming response. So I will be splitting this into a two-part series, but this is where I get to be an open book and answer all of your burning questions around wedding planning, the industry, design, mindset, all of the things there, which I'm so excited to help you out with. So strap yourself in, we're going to dive in and enjoy this first part of the series. Okay, question one, where are you based? So we are based in regional Victoria, Australia. We are situated about 4 hours from Melbourne to the east, but our specialty really lies within being able to service regional Victoria. So basically all of the country regions outside of the city of Melbourne, that is where our heart lies. And why we love specializing in that specific area is because it really goes hand in hand with the way we like to operate our business and the people that we like to work with. We love that beautiful, elegant, abundant, romantic style that you find in the city, but we also love pairing that with that genuine, welcome, warm hospitality that you tend to only find in the country. And I think that is a bit of a direct reflection, I guess, of me and my journey, having originally grown up in Melbourne and then moved to the country, and then since then moved back and forth countless times for study, for work, for all of the things. And I guess it's my way of infusing those two worlds that I love into one and into my passion, which is wedding styling and design. So although we are situated out in the country, we've got the beautiful rolling hills as my background. We love traveling, so we actually service all throughout Gippsland, so through Maffra, Traralgon, Warragul, Druin, Pakenham, even over to the west in Ballarat region as well. Basically any regional area that we can weave our magic, we love traveling to. So although our base is situated in the east, that's just where I raise my family, that's where I do my admin from, and the rest of it is all on the road. It's wherever you guys as our clients take us. So we love an adventure, and yeah, that's how we... Okay, how did you start in the industry? So this is a little bit of a long one. I actually, all throughout high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I just decided to pick subjects based on what I was interested in, and they were kind of conflicting. And at the time I felt like, I guess, my career journey and my study journey was quite random, but I just followed my intuition in terms of what I felt like I would enjoy and really love learning about. And now, almost 12 years down the track, I can hand on heart say that I can clearly see how all of those stepping stones, how all of those dots have connected and led me to where I am today. So I chose subjects back in high school. I'm a creative, I always have been, so a lot of art-based subjects, but I also chose like health and human development, and I was in business studies as well. I actually failed in business in that subject, so I dropped that and put all of my focus into my remaining subjects. And funny thing, because although I failed in business then, I've since gone on to start and found 3 businesses, and I've even sold one of those as well. So it's just funny. I think it's really important to understand your way of learning and how you best absorb the information and education around you, whether that is sitting in a classroom, learning from a textbook, or whether that's something that might be a little bit more unconventional, or even by just learning by rolling up your sleeves and getting hands-on. I think when you're considering getting into a line of career, a line of work, I think it's really important to have that self-awareness of how you best learn, because, you know, me failing at business and then going on to I say that I'm this self-confessed business nerd because I am very, very passionate about it. Yeah, two polar opposites really, but it was just the I guess the circumstances of that learning environment. It obviously wasn't a great fit for me, and I've since gone on to study business with other institutes, and it's just been hands down the best thing ever. So I just wanted to start off with that. So I followed through with choosing subjects that I was passionate about, and it wasn't until I think roughly halfway through year 12, I was flicking through a Cosmopolitan magazine, and they had like this careers article going on where they were highlighting, you know, these really cool different jobs that people did. And one of them was called a visual merchandiser. And I had never ever heard of this in my life. So I was really intrigued. I read the article. It was all to do with creative overlay within a retail space. So they were talking about it being shop window displays and, you know, dressing mannequins, that sort of thing, to really paint a picture of yeah, an outfit or of a story to be that first touch point that a customer would see, and the goal was to entice them to come into the store and spend time in the store to then make a purchase. So I went back to my careers counsellor, teacher, got one of those job guide books. I don't know if they still exist, but to read up a little bit more about it and find out where I could study this. I then deferred school for 2 years after graduating year 12, and I enrolled myself into a diploma of visual merchandising at RMIT University in Melbourne. So that's where I studied. It was a 2-year course. It was full-time. It was full-on. Lots of tears. And there were subjects in there that I didn't enjoy as well, such as you know, I'm a qualified I can do store development. So technically I'm qualified in that, but I hated that subject. I hated CAD. I hated those technical drawings. I hated working out lighting layouts based on tungsten levels and how different lighting, you know, from a change room to a wall fixture to an entry point, that just bored me. I hated that. I wanted to get creative in another way. Then came this random subject within the course. I don't even know why it's in there really, but it was this subject called event styling, and that opened my mind to the whole world of events, because I'd sort of thought about previously enrolling into VM. I'd sort of thought about interior design or, you know, event management, but those things just didn't quite tick the boxes for me. They didn't quite feel right. Then when I heard about this thing called event styling, I was like, okay, my ears pricked up and they had my attention. So I then became obsessed with the world of events, and in particular weddings. There was something about weddings that just felt like this wonderland, like this different world that people would create literally from nothing, and it would just be this moment where you felt in awe, like when you're a kid and you walk into a lolly shop and you're just like, wow, where am I? This is incredible. And that's how I felt in that world of weddings. And I think it was a little bit to do with living in the country at that time. I grew up in my teens in the country, and so I wasn't exposed to any of that. Like, there wasn't even a lot of weddings going around. So to then fall into this course and be immersed in this world of amazing floral installations, and the fact that people created these temporary settings with their own two hands out of nothing, just really got my attention. So I fell in love with that little subject, and I poured my heart and soul into it. Every time we had a guest speaker come and do like a lecture, I would just hang off every word that these people were saying. some phenomenal people within the events industry in Melbourne came and spoke with RMIT. People like Georgie Kay from Georges, Amanda Hennison from Gloss Creative, and the girls from Theme from Jack as well. They really just, yeah, opened my mind and my eyes to this world that I knew I wanted to be a part of. So then we could also do work experience as a part of the visual merchandising course. And of course, I chose to do my work experience with somebody in the events industry. And I loved it, but I think I was so hungry for it that I was so nervous. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I was the kid that would stuff up even the littlest thing, right? And I think it was because I was just so nervous. I really wanted to do really, really well at this. I didn't want to stuff it up because I was so hungry for it. But I ended up putting a little bit too much pressure on myself that I would under-deliver. And then I sort of found myself in, we'd be sitting in traffic, in Melbourne traffic, going to and from jobs, and I would just be so intrigued with the how. Like, yes, I was there for work experience to help set up events and pack down events, but I wanted to know the how, like, because I still don't think I could fathom how you get from nothing, from a blank canvas, to this incredible event. And the company that I did work experience for, they did a lot of corporate events. We did like a Moroccan Arabian Nights theme at the Melbourne Convention Centre, where it was just like a full-on Christmas party, decked out Moroccan style. We had live camels in there for camel rides. There were lounges, there were tables, there were belly dancers, fire-breathing people. Like, it was epic. And then another private client, I remember they were hosting a Christmas party at their property, and they wanted to get these 2 giant life-size Nutcracker dolls to be the entrance. And for me, like, that was just unheard of. It was just like, who does this? This is just something in the movies. So I was so intrigued about learning the how. How do you go about doing a life-size Nutcracker doll? How do you get a camel into the Melbourne Convention Centre? You know, all of those things. And looking back again, I think I became this like nerdy kid, you know, that nerdy sort of annoying kid that just asks a million questions all the time. That was me. And we were presented with the opportunity to apply for a job with this company when we graduated as well, and I applied for it, and I was crossing fingers and toes that I would get it, because my parents had said if I didn't move back home, if I didn't get a job in Melbourne within like a month of graduating, then I had to move back home, and I really didn't want to move back home. So I applied for this job and I didn't get it, and I was crushed, because to me, that was a massive door closing, and I had to move back home. So I moved back home. I ended up getting a job just with a hotel, doing work experience, housekeeping and reception work. And you know, it was a job that had nothing to do with the industry that I wanted to be a part of, but from that job in Melbourne, from there no to then going into this random hotel job, again, I can see the dots now that they were connecting, because that no that I had, if they had said yes, then I hand on heart believe that I wouldn't have started my own business, and that I wouldn't have gone on to create and do and impact the people's lives that I have. So for every no, I believe, I'm so passionate in believing that it's all for a reason. And so I got into this hotel job. I ended up meeting the chef there, and she introduced me to somebody who was hiring in a local florist. And they really loved the idea that I had visual merchandising qualifications, because they really wanted to create beautiful displays and things within their retail florist store. So I sort of landed in that, and then that is where my interest and passion for flowers really took off. So I learnt, floristry on the job. I never did an apprenticeship or anything like that. I learnt it all on the job, the customer service, you know, the flower terminology, all of that paired with all of the visual merchandising display stuff. So I fell into that role and really loved it. From there, I moved on to another retail florist, a bigger florist store, that I was a part of a bigger team who then taught me more. And amongst that, I had registered a business name and an ABN for myself. And I just started pouring every spare dollar and every spare moment of time into creating whatever I wanted to create, just letting that creativity flow, and I'd photograph it. And I'm pretty sure this is the early days of Instagram as well. So I'd just share it on Facebook and Instagram, just for whoever was following along. And then I took it seriously a little bit more and did some wedding expos, got some business cards printed, wrote my car, because I was like, I am legit. I am a wedding stylist. Come at me. But I will tell you now that I had the name, I had the creativity, I was putting myself out there. But I think I was about 22 at this stage. So it was actually really difficult to convince people that I was legit and, you know, trust me with one of the most important days of your lives that you don't get a do-over with. That was really difficult. And so I wanted to get more experience. I ended up reaching out to, there were 2 wedding decorators in the area, and I reached out to them for work experience. Both of them turned me down. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep creating, just keep doing my thing, which I did. And then I reached out to one of those decorators and I said to them, look, I'm learning about this floristry thing. Like, if you ever wanted to include fresh flowers on your tables for your clients, for their weddings, I'm your girl. Reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help. Because back then, fresh flowers on tables, especially, wedding tables, weren't really a thing. That was back when you had to choose from centerpiece A, B, or C. And quite often they were like a round mirror base with a fishbowl, the LED light sticks, like the battery operated LED lights on a stick, those sorts of things, or floating candles, like that kind of thing. So I was sort of putting myself out there and saying like, hey, if you're wanting something different, if you've got a client that wants fresh flowers, like, I'd be more than happy to help. And I didn't hear anything until one day I did. And this company had said to me, look, Lauren, I have got this really, really difficult client. She doesn't want this, she doesn't want that. She's just been so difficult. And I'm pretty sure the word bridezilla was used, which I hate. I don't believe in that word. And she was like, look, can I just hand them to you? Can you sort them out? They don't know what they want. I was like, yeah, sure. So I was living with my parents then. I didn't want to have a meeting at my parents' house, and it had to be after work hours. There were no cafes or anything open after 5 o'clock. So we met at McCafe, and there I was, like 22-year-old me, sitting down with this couple in McCafe. I had my iPad out, and as they're talking to me, like, they were really lovely. And as they were talking to me, my ideas just start flowing, and then I was able to pull up my iPad and go, well, how about, what if we did something like this, or like bit of this and bit of this? And I started, I guess, like a bit of word vomiting, like as I was coming up with these ideas on the spot, and they loved it, and they were like, yep, like happy for you to go back and come up with something and send us through some pricing. So that's what I did, and they booked me. And I went and set it up, and that was my first wedding ever. It turns out the bride was wanting something fresh on the tables, but she was actually allergic to flowers. So not difficult. I think, like, just naturally I did it, but I think that really highlighted to me that there was this gap in terms of wedding businesses really wanting couples to fit within a box. So you had to choose option A, B, or C, and there wasn't a lot of listening going on. And that's all this couple needed. They just needed to be heard. They wanted something a bit different. So can you think outside the box for us a little bit? Like, rather than us having to just have the same centerpiece as the people did last weekend. And so that's when I really learnt, quite organically, the importance of just listening and actually hearing out your client. You can advise them and things like that, but you have to lean in and really listen as well. So that is gold. From there, it just sort of grew, and that company then decided they were going to be moving interstate and didn't want to be doing this anymore. So they offered for me to buy them out. And I did. I bought out their business and I merged it with mine. And with that, I got some bookings, I got some stock, and it was really great because I then was able to meet with these couples and reassure them that they were in great hands. But it also presented the opportunity that I could show them the other really cool, like handmade, different, out of the box things that I could bring to the table. And I would say like 9 out of 10 of them were all for it. It wasn't completely changing the design of things, but it might have been just like including a handwritten welcome sign. Like welcome signs weren't a thing then. Things like that. And that's how I started to really get a name for myself for being different. With that, I'm an introvert at heart, but I really love having a good conversation with people and meeting people more in that like one-on-one setting, as opposed to, I don't do so well in a massive group. But I would always make an effort when we were setting up weddings to go and meet the other people that were working there. So out in the kitchen, I would go and pop my head in and say hello to the caterers and say, hi, I'm Lauren, like we're from ETC. And, same with the photographer, the celebrant, all of the people. I was just friendly, because back then it was really, really a sense of stay in your lane. Like, don't go in the kitchen and don't talk to them in there. Do what you were turned up to do, because this is a job, So do your job, go home, come back, pack it up, done. Whereas I was all about, without even knowing it, I guess networking and just really, having a conversation with other people as well, and being friendly with the guests and stuff like that. And I think that's the start of how I realized that I didn't want our approach to be this super formal, like interview vibes where you're the hired help, so don't you dare talk to anyone. I really hated that approach. So that was, I guess, my way of infusing that point of difference into it. But it wasn't like, it was just this natural thing, because that's just who I am. But with that came as well, I was getting my name out there more and more in the wider industry too. So, and photographers then were like happy to share their photos with me, because I would share it with our audience. And now that's really common, like, photographers sharing their photographs and things like that, and you tag them and credit them. But back then it wasn't a thing. So that's how I sort of got the momentum going in there. And from there, the word just got out. I was photographing all of my work and advertising that. And I think that was a missed opportunity that other decorators weren't doing at that time. It was just like a Facebook sort of photo album, but not really like getting it out there, getting it in front of people's eyes. So that's what I did, and I was fortunate enough to have some magazine write-ups and newspaper write-ups as well. I would do some visual merchandising displays for local retailers as well, which was really awesome, because again, that wasn't a thing that retailers invested in, certainly not in my area. That was stick a poster up in the window kind of thing. So that was really fun, and I just had my eye like on the goal of really making this a career, and I just kept going. So I went away to Sydney every second month, flying there and studying in this room filled of amazing entrepreneurs, some just starting out, and other people who had businesses operating. And then to the other scale, there were multi-millionaires in that room too. So it was just like, again, like this wonderland experience for me, and I just fell in love with learning all things about business. And I would come home, I had 4 hours in the car by myself from the airport to home to just get so motivated and driven, and I had all these ideas pouring out of me, and I got back home and I was able to implement them straight away into my business and help motivate my team at the time, and all of the things. So like that was just life-changing. That was the entourage that I was a part of, and it was just incredible. So that was that phase of my career journey. Fast forward a couple of years after that, I ended up moving back to Melbourne, and I guess reduced that wedding business down a little bit, and wanted a bit of a career change. So I ended up getting a job with the Cotton On Group, working for Cotton On Body at their head office in Geelong. And there my role was a store experience coordinator within their visual merchandising team. So at the time I was responsible for helping with the creative overlay in terms of the window display ideas and designs, and yeah, for new store setups across the world. So at that moment, Cotton On Body were opening new stores globally, like so rapidly. And yeah, and we would implement these new window displays purposely for those new store openings. In particular, there was a big focus on their flagship stores too. And I was very fortunate to be able to travel to a few of those store openings and help lead the team in executing that as well, which was awesome. And yeah, it involved lots of store visits, lots of leading teams. Yeah, I just loved it. And again, I think it was the part of, you know, walking into a new store, it was a shell, like a complete empty space. And then, you know, after a few days, you had all these teams just working together beautifully. You had the builders, you had the VMs, you had the merchandisers, you had the state teams all working together to bring this store to life and then have a grand opening. One of my fondest memories was actually the Chadstone store, being able to help with that. I loved living at Chadstone, helping with that Cotton On Body store and helping the team there. So that was amazing. I really loved my time there until I didn't, until I started to really miss home and miss that floristry aspect. I realized that I did miss that customer client interaction, because for the better part, it was a lot of, you know, office facing roles, and yeah, I had the team around me that I could talk to, but it wasn't really any customer interaction at all. So I moved back home, and that's when I launched and opened my very own retail florist store, which was an incredible experience. Some might look at it as a very negative experience, and whilst, you know, being totally honest, that business I hated working in. I think I only had it open for 6 months, and it just became this rock bottom for me, because I didn't realize it at the time, but like I just felt like I couldn't gel with this business. And why wasn't it flowing? Like I'd created that with my wedding business, and like this goes hand in hand, and I still had the wedding business operating, but now I had this retail florist as well. And it was just hard emotionally, and I just felt really disconnected with it. And it wasn't until I made this massive call. I'd signed a 3-year lease. I was 6 months into it, and I made this massive call to close it down. And I remember having my head in my hands, just bawling my eyes out at home to my partner, and he gave me the best advice here. And you know, he said basically, the lessons that I have learned in these 6 months, some people don't even learn this in a lifetime. Like there is so much value in that. And at the time I didn't understand it, but yeah, later on he was so spot on, because I learned one of the most valuable lessons I think that you can learn in life, especially if you're trying to figure out what you want to do as a job and a career. And it's exactly that. I think it's really deciding, are you wanting this as a job or is it a career? Because what I've realized after the fact with my retail florist store, I'd actually come back home and created a job for myself, versus the wedding business that I had for years prior, that was a career. So I'd created that passion and drive for my wedding business, but for some reason I couldn't get that in my florist business, and that's because I had a career for my wedding business, but I just created a job for the florist business, meaning it was one that was, you know, predominantly fueled by, and I should have put my ego, left that at the door and really got honest with myself, but it was because I needed to earn an income. So it was financially driven, right? Versus purposely driven. And that was a massive lesson. And I am a big believer in, you know, when one door shuts, another one opens, and putting the trust in the universe and all of the things. And when I surrendered and I had no idea what I was going to do, I was prepared to go and get a job at McCafe to pay rent on this empty shop for the next few years. Someone came through and wanted to take over my lease, which was incredible. And in the last hour of the last day of my closing down sale, this gentleman walks through the door, and he's a manager at the local Mitre 10 store, and asked to talk to me about, you know, the fact that they've got a garden centre and they've had the idea of putting a florist in there, and wanted to know if I was open to, you know, having a chat to them about whether that idea had legs and what that would look like. And I'm such an open book in terms of I love sharing my knowledge of things, and if I can help somebody, I will. So of course I was so for that. And those meetings turned into more meetings, and that eventually turned into them putting the green light on opening a florist store and offering to buy my business, buy my brand, and hire me to manage and set that up and get it off the ground, which was just like mind-blowing. It was one of those moments where I'm like, you put your full surrender and trust in the universe because you follow your intuition and you know what your gut is telling you. And these sorts of opportunities, like you can't plan them. Like, it's just incredible. And then that led on to, I think, about a 4-year, I did 4 years or so with that company, and it was incredible. I grew that florist for them. We hired a team, we had apprentices, we were like a team of about 7 of us. We were able to give back to the community. We were able to support so many local charities, so many local growers and suppliers, and provide those jobs. And it was just incredible, and an experience that I am very thankful for, and so grateful for, you know, those guys who gave me a seat at the table and were able to honestly listen to my ideas and support me and have my back 110% through everything, especially through COVID, because that florist business boomed through COVID because everyone was in lockdown, and you know, all florists around the country had the same experience, but that was just such an expansive time. And so yeah, that was incredible. I then went on maternity leave. I still had my wedding business operating all along, and then I went on maternity leave. And I think when you have kids, it really shifts your perspective on life in general. And so I knew that I really wanted to put that love and time and energy back into my business. So I ended up leaving that role. I was in that florist management / a social media marketing role then at that time, and I left that to finally go full-time in my wedding business, and that was about 12 months ago now. So, and then it's just been an epic ride since. I've been, I think since then, you know, it's still all about really working with clients who we absolutely adore, and it's a two-way street, that they love us as well. We get along like a house on fire. So that means that working relationship there, it just feels amazing. And I'm such a big believer and advocate for when you invest in your wedding team behind the scenes and they are all just getting along like a house on fire and you genuinely gel with them too, then that goes on behind the scenes. But imagine what's going to be produced on the front end of that, on the end that you and your guests get to experience, which is just incredible. So that still remains our focus. I've been diving right into self-development, business development, creative marketing, all of those things, and of course showing up on YouTube and sharing all of this as well. So that is my long form career journey. And yeah, how did I start in the industry, and I guess that journey from then till now. I think that's why I'm so passionate about speaking to especially school kids who I think want to try and have everything figured out. And I love sharing that it's okay to not have it all figured out. I didn't know what I wanted to do until midway through year 12. And then the random things that have occurred in my career journey that felt really random at the time, but I just trusted my intuition and I went with it. I can honestly, say now, over 12 years from when I started ETC, that I can clearly connect those dots. So I just want to share that because I think it's a really important message, especially if you're figuring out, what to do for a career and really decipher between whether you're choosing a job or a career, because that's been a massive life lesson for me, which you only learn through doing, right?